welcome to This Day. It is Tuesday. It is April 30th, the last day of April. We're saying goodbye. May is going to be ushered in and hopefully some warmer temperatures as well. On our show today, we want to get right to it. I'm Michael Taylor, by the way. There I am. There I'm not. On our show today, we're going to be talking with Rose Glenn, who's kind of a historian or a self-proclaimed historian for Leisure World, and she has found some really cool historic footage of 1970s Leisure World. So we'll take a look at that and also some of her collection over the years that she's collected, from postcards to magazines and all kinds of things that are really kind of historic to this area. Then later in the program, Publishing Club, Dinah Lynn is going to be talking with her guest, Nicholas Cattleman, and I'll be talking to him too, about some great tips on how you can do memoirs. He's a ghostwriter. He's done film scripts. He's done nonfiction and fiction work, and he's going to be at the next meeting, and he's going to have some great tips for writers. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for that as well. Hey, we've got some emergency work going on. Southern California Edison. It's Carmageddon going over by Gate 5 this week. And for a little while, they have to close the roads for some transformer repair. So the emergency work is closing Avenida Sevilla through traffic lanes at Villa Puerta during working hours. There's going to be a closure going on now till May 17th until they get that all done. So make sure you get some alternative routes in and out there. We tried to get a map from Southern California Edison. They didn't have a map to show us where the closures were. So then I went to the graphics department here, and I was told very kindly, we don't have a graphics department. So there you go. We couldn't make a map for you, but we're giving you the information. There's also going to be some power outages that are going to be scheduled on May 2nd and May 10th, and you will be getting notifications if that's going to affect you. It's going to be about 65 manners that will be affected when they put in the new transformer. All right, let's take a look outside while we're here. And we got some morning gray. We got the preview of May gray. So we're going to have some AM clouds for the next 2 days, and it's going to clear to afternoon sunshine, mostly as the marine layer kind of peels off. Then we got a couple warm days coming up. Thursday and Friday should be some really nice warm days. Then we start to cool off again. Might even have some clouds on Saturday. But a great couple days, warm days out there, so we'll look forward to that. Let's take a look at our sunrise and our sunset. Here's a fun picture over here in Dana Point of all the blooms that are out. If you guys haven't been on some of the trails here in Orange County, get out there. The flowers are in bloom. It's really beautiful out there. Sunrise this morning was 6:02. Sunset tonight is going to be 7:33. If you'd like to send us a picture of some amazing blooms on your next walk, or just pictures from here around the village, you can send it to us at lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. Make sure you include your name, where you took the picture, and we will put it on our sunrise sunset segment. All right, when we come back, some cool historic Leisure World film. Stay with us.
Do you suffer from low back pain? Hoag Orthopedic Institute is the #1 provider of orthopedic and spine care in Orange County. Our Back to You program is a unique, non-operative, evidence-based approach to treating low back pain. Our spine strengthening program combines physical therapy with education on pain and nutrition. Let Hoag Orthopedic Institute's Back to You program get you back to doing what you love. For more information, visit hoiexperts.com/spine or call 855-999-4641 to find a doctor.
And welcome back. We want to welcome to the program Rose Glenn. She's kind of an amateur historian. We're going to go take a step back in time into here the days of Leisure World, as many of you may remember this was Leisure World before it was Laguna Woods Village. Rose, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here.
Now, you moved here, your family moved here in the early 70s, and you've just have this nostalgic kind of look back on everything here that was here back in those times, right?
That's correct. Our family moved to Laguna Hills in 1971. We moved into a residential neighborhood called New World that was also built by Rossmore.
Okay.
So at the time when Laguna Woods was called Leisure World, Leisure World being built by Rossmore, they also built New World. And New World was for families to move to this area to be the support for their surrounding businesses.
Okay.
We were so far out, kind of in the boonies, that we just needed the people to support the businesses. My mother was a nurse, and because the medical center was here, she worked at the medical center.
Okay, okay. And I remember when I was a kid, there was like Santa Ana and that kind of stuff. Then there was the Irvine Ranch land, was this giant swath of just land, and way down, then Laguna Woods. And that's when like the land started again. So like you say, in the boonies, it doesn't feel like that today because we're so built out. But it was farm fields, strawberry fields. It was all El Toro based, but it was a lot of open land out here.
That's
in the old
correct.
days.
We had cattle ranches and orange groves, and of course during the springtime, the orange groves were so fragrant. It was just
yeah, you
heavenly.
smell it forever.
Yes.
No, I remember when I moved here in the late 70s, and there was still a lot of that still around. You came across, you collect things on eBay, you look for things, you have a lot of good collections, but you came across a film recently.
That's correct. I love to collect historical photos of this area. They remind me of my childhood and just bring back some happily memories. And as I was searching for these photos, postcards and things, I came across an 8mm film titled Leisure World. I had no clue what was on the film. It just titled Leisure World. So I took a chance and I purchased it and was so excited to transfer it onto DVD to see what was on the film. And it turns out that a former resident filmed a homemade movie of a tour of Leisure World, and from 1970.
Right, right. Now I saw a little bit of it, and it's definitely not like a Leisure World production or anything like that. This is just him deciding to do his own kind of tour of the community. We see like the Great Western Bank, we see the Taj Mahal, we see the community, we see the golf course. It's really a kind of a really interesting glimpse of that time back then.
That's correct, and a lot of the buildings are still there. Maybe the businesses have changed, but the buildings are still there.
Yeah, the bank building's still over by the mall.
Correct. Correct. And you'll definitely recognize Taj Mahal. You'll see Taj Mahal. And the medical center where my mother used to work, that looks much different now.
Yeah, it's amazing. What was it like to see that and go, wow, jackpot?
It really took me back in time. It really did. Time travel truly is possible if you just have a little bit of imagination.
Yes, we're time travelers right now. We're just all going at the same pace.
Yeah.
So when did your collection first start? What was the first thing you said, you know what would be cool to have is X?
Well, several years ago, I started collecting photographs of Laguna Beach.
Okay.
Living in this area, you know, we were only 4 miles from Laguna Beach, and that town is so historical. That's where it all started. And then as this area started to grow and develop, I started to kind of miss the rolling hills and the orange groves and things. So that's where my collection kind of evolved into the surrounding areas of Laguna Woods. And that's where it all started.
There's where it all began. You brought some stuff for us to take a look at. Like, what's this big magazine? Kind of the large format there. I haven't seen those kind in a while.
This is So this is a beautiful brochure of Leisure World.
Hey, let me hold that up for so folks
Sure.
can see it. And tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here. This is the cover, obviously, but
This is a marketing brochure for Leisure World from 1964, and
Wow.
the contents, there are some pictures in there that are just spectacular of what it was like back then, especially the globe that was located off of El Toro Road that was just magnificent. It was a fountain, and it had beautiful plants and flowers surrounding it.
oh yeah, it was gorgeous. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd see it from the 5 freeway, but to be on the other side of the street, that's where you really got to see like you said, the fountain and the flowers and everything. You could always see the top 2/3 of the globe from the freeway and then the wall.
That's correct, and it was just beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and they moved it for a while, but now it's gone, which I miss.
Yes, I miss it too. It really was something spectacular to look at, and it was moved a couple of different times, but eventually they did dismantle it, unfortunately.
Now you also have come across postcards, and And there's really some cool images on the front of some of these postcards. They're Leisure World postcards in the other areas around here, but they're also used. So you take a look at what people wrote, like, hey, I just moved into Leisure World and I love it here. Those kinds of things?
Well, this is one of the things I love about collecting postcards, because not only do you get the beautiful photograph on the front of the postcard, but then on the flip side of the postcard, you also get a delightful story from that person writing to their family or loved one about where they are and where they're staying. Usually a vacation, so they're always a lot of fun.
They're usually happy about whatever they're writing.
About whatever it is that they're writing. And then you also get to see where the postcard was mailed to, plus the stamp. If you're maybe interested a little bit into stamp collecting, you get the stamp. And then also the postmark, the day, the time, and the year. So I have a lot of postcards of Leisure World back in the day, but I also have other areas. Some of my postcards go back over 100 years.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's terrific. And so you've expanded your collection to just kind of like whatever you might be interested in. It's not just Leisure World memorabilia, right? Like you said, you started with Laguna Beach stuff a little bit, but where is this taking you?
Where is this taking me? Well, maybe I should mention our History Center. Our History Center welcomes donations of any artifacts or photographs of Laguna Woods. And this film and these photographs will be donated to our History Center to preserve our legacy for our future generations.
And are you still out there exploring and finding stuff? Like, do you do it all the time? Is this like your a little bit of your hobby?
It's a hobby. It's definitely a hobby.
What kind of collection do you have at the house? Like, what are some of the things you found? Like, this is for me. This is one that just reminds me of whatever it might be. Or there's some special ones that you just really happy about finding?
Well, I do have some special ones. Mostly, like I said, of Leisure World, but this one, our astrology club members might be interested in. This is a postcard of the planetarium in Hollywood, and the postmark is 1948.
Wow.
And it was mailed to Pennsylvania, and it's Griffith Observatory, and the picture is just absolutely beautiful.
That's fantastic.
And of course, the person writing the story to their family member is just a delightful one. I have another one here of New York City. This one was written by one of our veterans in 1945.
Wow.
And it was written on December 30th, so right before New Year's Eve, 1945. And he talks about how they're sending him to Italy, and he's writing to a buddy of his in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and suggests to his buddy in the military to not work too hard because the Army might want to keep him another year. So, and they were mailed free. Our military.
Right, military, and still to this day they get that, I think.
Yes,
so which
yes.
is really fantastic.
These are the sorts of things that I just love to see. They really take me back in time, and also the pictures of Laguna Woods. I have, here's the Taj Mahal, and this was the bus system that we used to have. That's what the buses used to look like.
I feel like I remember those a long time ago, dropping folks off at the mall. All right.
That's correct.
Well, we could do this all day, but Rose,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming in and sharing this kind of trip back in time in our time machine for us. So I really appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. And I know folks will want to go over to the History Center right here in the village and check out this stuff as it gets in there.
Thank you. I hope that our residents in the community enjoy this trip back in time.
I'm sure they will. You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.
At Harvard Eye Associates,
We are committed to your vision care.
and and quality of life.
It's a commitment we don't take lightly.
Our trusted team of doctors provides specialized eye care using state-of-the-art technology.
We deliver what matters to you
and your family.
Harvard Eye Associates, the future of vision today.
Publishing Club always has a fun time whenever they're here. They have great guests, they have great insights, and today is no exception. On March 15th, they got a big event coming up. Dinah Lynn from the Publishing Club and Nicholas Cattleman, we want to welcome both of you to the program. And you guys have a big thing coming up on May 15th. And Dinah, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about the Publishing Club in general and what it's all about.
Well, the Publishing Club actually has a long history. I would say long. It's about 10 years. It was started 10 years ago, and by Peggy Edwards. And our president now is Nancy Brown. She was the president last year and this year. And we have all sorts of members, you know, people who are writers and want to be writers, authors, poets, and writers of every genre, a wide diversity of genres. And we try to have programs every month. We do have programs every month that are helpful to these, to our members. And we're very happy with the program lineup that we've had so far this year. And we're really looking forward to Nick's program in May. And we've got some really other wonderful programs lined up. Do you want me to go into them now or give Nick a chance to talk about?
Why don't we jump into May and tell me a little bit about what was the planning behind this one?
The planning behind this one is that Nick has a very good reputation with several members of our board. They raved about him because they've worked with him, and so they can speak from experience. And so it was great, enthusiastic, response on our board to have Nick come if he could. And given that he has a very busy schedule and he doesn't even live in town. The reason we're doing this by Zoom rather than in person. And given his background, I read his background, and I have to say it's very impressive and would be very suitable for our audience and for our members. And the details, I'm going to let Nick go into that.
All right, Nick. Well, there has been raving about you here in Laguna Woods Village. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry from the start, maybe your background in education, and where did you get to the point where now you're a memoir, kind of focus on memoir writing?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's I always say, if you have writing, whether it's a blessing or a curse, it's kind of in you. So I've always been someone who absolutely loves the written word and loves to write. It's definitely in me. I studied creative writing at the University of Washington up in Seattle. I actually specialized in poetry and had the benefit of working with some amazing, just unbelievable teachers, Richard Kenny and Heather McHugh and Linda Beard stand out. David Guterson wrote an amazing novel called Snow Falling on Cedars. He was a guest speaker who I have a relationship with. So had an amazing kind of education up there. And then when I graduated, I started working in the entertainment business and worked at a company called WME, which is a big talent agency, and met all sorts of people and screenwriters. But I just really love books. That was kind of in me. And I started ghostwriting. I kind of transitioned, built a small business, interviewing people and getting their stories. I was so interested. Hollywood's fascinating for a number of reasons, but what it really is these people have such great stories. And I thought, gosh, I would love to kind of learn more about that piece. So when
you were up there in Hollywood, were you reading scripts? Were you going through other people's stuff and seeing the structure and seeing how they were organizing things?
Yeah. I was working in the motion picture department at WME. So it was working with screenwriters that, I worked on a team that represents the writers and directors that get turned into. So I was seeing it on a creative level. And so that was fascinating. But I was also seeing the players, in that business and how interesting their own lives were and reflecting on, it was such a great education, in that regard. It was like people call it, the best master's degree that you could get is working at an agency like that. So it was terrific. It was so much fun. And then what happened, kind of my big thing that pushed me into memoirs really was my grandfather. He wanted to write his life story, and he hired me to write his memoir. It was, I wrote it with him, and it ended up getting published by Simon and Schuster. And the beautiful piece of that story was every month, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, I'd have dinner with my grandfather. I felt like I knew him a lot. But when it wasn't until I sat down with him for that first meeting and he started telling me about his career and his life, I was like, I didn't know this guy. I had no idea who he was until we kind of had that space to reflect. For him to write, up until then, he felt like he couldn't share those things, that no one cared.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. Like there's a whole world of his life that you didn't know, and that's how that memoir kind of came to be. Is like that little interview, and like, wait a minute, who knew this was all happening in your life?
That's right. And you know what? My father, my aunts, my uncles, when the book came out and they read it, they said, we didn't know that. We had no idea that person existed. So from that experience, and he worked in the entertainment business. So it was kind of this melding of family and that entertainment business. It was kind of a perfect marriage, that project. And I started a small business called Storyflect that, I didn't want to just write memoirs of people who are rich and famous, because that's kind of, unfortunately, the memoir business works, is that you sell a book off the name of the individual. I thought, how many people are out there that have amazing stories that deserve to be told, but there's not really a place for them right now in the current makeup of that genre. So with Storyflect, I try my best to try to work on projects on an individual basis, kind of soup to nuts, whether it's a concept of a memoir, pushing it all the way to printing, whether it's someone who just needs to edit. I try to work with people to get their, turn a project, a brainchild, into something that you can hold in your hands.
Now, Dinah, that's where Laguna Woods Village comes in, because we have a monstrous community of retired folks who have this world of experience and world of stories.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a great fit here, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I really feel that everyone has a story, actually. And so many people really want to write, but they just don't take that first step. They're intimidated and they feel that they can't. And if they work with somebody like Nick, I think he could pull the story out of anybody and, and present it in a really great light. So we're really looking forward to this workshop. Absolutely.
So Nick, give us kind of an overview of what you think you'll be telling folks about this, because now you're not going to be working with, like you say, these uber famous folks, in terms of memoirs. So, what would they need to understand about how they get a memoir going?
Yeah. Well, one thing too is I work on memoirs quite a bit, but I also understand that a lot of the people at Laguna Woods in this community, they're writing fiction or they're writing poetry, and that stuff. So I'm designing this talk to not just be talking only about memoirs. I wanted to really touch on a lot of different types of writing, and I know a lot of the past presentations have been about specifically navigating that labyrinth of publishing. That's not what I'm going to be focusing on. We can talk about that in the Q&A. Happy to field questions on that. But I'm a firm believer in the fact that publishing is great. You need to understand the skills, but you also have to have something that you're ready to publish. And that means, really having a handle on the craft of writing. So my kind of talk the goal of it is going to be equipping kind of the audience with some tools that they can use to elevate the craft of their own writing in a variety of different genres. So I'm going to be looking at kind of language as what is language? I call it the most important invention of human civilization. What are the strengths of language? What are the weaknesses of language? How can we use the strengths and adapt it particularly to our project? Because all it is it's a tool. It's just a medium that can allow us to transmit our thoughts and feelings. So going to be talking about language, going to be talking about the importance of finding your voice on the page. I've read some of the best books that I read are the ones that I read it and I go, I now understand the personality of the person who wrote it, as opposed to some robotic thing. So, and the beautiful thing about voice is that it varies from person to person. So some tools on terms of how do I get my voice into a shaper. And then the last thing that I want to touch on too is structure. because sure is, I always say, structure is the friend that you hate that you need. You need to have it in order to turn your project into something.
Right.
But and it can be a friend, but it's a necessary constraint, you know?
Yeah, and that
I just
structure,
want
the scaffolding that goes around whatever the story is going to be, right? It's not a formula, but it's here's how things need to work in storytelling.
That's right. That's right. And you know, structure, it's the fascinating thing about structure is once you find the right one, it doesn't feel like a constraint anymore. It
Mhm.
actually feels like you're opening doors because the scariest thing is a blank page. You guys said it a moment ago. It's, oh my gosh, I have the story in me. It's this kind of nebulous thing, but I don't know where to even start. The structure is going to help you, give you a runway for how to actually tell your story.
I think that might be enlightening to some of the people in the audience that will be listening to this, because they probably always thought of structure as a constraint
Yeah,
and instead of a friend, instead of a tool that would enable them to get started, actually.
that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
All right, well,
So I
Diana,
think
tell us all about. We don't want to give the whole thing away. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, but tell us one more time, April, for the May 15th event. Tell us all about it.
I'm all set to, he's telling you all about the May 15th. I want to tell you a little bit about the
Okay.
June, July.
All right,
Can I
well,
do that?
Sure, we
Okay.
can do that. May 15th is going to be from 2 to 4, Clubhouse 3 for folks who want to come out and see that. And make sure you email pubclublw@gmail.com to make sure you get into this event. And Diana, I want to wrap up with some of the other events you guys have coming up.
Okay. In June, we have an event called I Am Me First, Real People Telling Real Stories. I think this is wonderful following Nick's presentation. It's going to be Barb Torino, who's an actor, and she has been working with people on this for like 30 years, and she can coach people to translate their story into a dramatic storytelling because she's an actor by trade. And in July, we have Tom Blake, who's going to be interviewed by Diana Bolin. And he's a columnist and an author. He's been a columnist for 30 years, and his column is on life and love after 50. So we feel this will be a very interesting. Our president was excited when she read the editorial on in Globe. I think it was the February edition. And then in August, we have a roundtable, which will enable our members to exchange and share their experience and expertise with each other. And in that way, we also get to know each other a little better. So I'll stop there and not go through the
All
whole
right.
year.
Like I said, always lots of excitement when we're talking to the folks at the Publishing Club. Nick and Dinah, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the May 15th event.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you very much.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.
Whether you are physically active, playing pickleball or golf, or have trouble with daily activities, Trishulo is thoughtfully crafted with your needs in mind. Our unique formula can help provide relief when you need it most. Apply a small amount to your hands, knees, neck, shoulders, or any other areas of discomfort. Gently rub in a circular motion until thoroughly dissolved. There are no artificial chemicals, just natural plant compound to nourish your body. Endorsed by athletes, loved by all, there is nothing like Trishulo Organics. Don't let pain control your life. Take action today.
And welcome back, everybody. Quick weather check before we head out. It's going to be nice, cool 70s today and tomorrow. Then we warm up a little later in the week, and then we get cool again. That's about as simple a forecast as I can give you. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to look forward to meeting with a urologic surgeon from City of Hope. He's going to be talking about his procedures and things that might be good for you. And African American Club's Annie McCary is going to be here. That's going to do it for this edition of This Day. Thanks for watching.